Have you ever walked into the gym and you see all the equipment, you see the people working out with their cutoffs on, grunting and making all sorts of strange noises, and think to yourself, I shouldn't be here, and then you head out the other way? If that's the case, this video is for you. This is Building the Basics, a multiple part mini series that we're going to use to get you as comfortable in the gym as possible. Gym intimidation is a real thing, and generally speaking, if you have gym intimidation or intimidation of going to the gym, you most likely won't go. So my job is to build a foundation that is going to help you get through the gym intimidation phase and into a training routine. This is going to be a multiple part mini series where I'm going to take you through terminology, understanding etiquette, form and technique, execution on gym manners, and tools we can utilize to set you up for success with your training program. My goal by the end of this first video is to give you enough terminology that you feel comfortable understanding some of the lingo that's used in the gym. Today, we're going to be covering resistance training and some of the terminology that's used when you go into the gym. After we review terminology today, I'm going to provide a 3-day split that you can follow to start utilizing some of these tools and terminology concepts that we've built. So make sure you stay till the end so I can get you that information. So today I want to cover as much terminology as possible so that way you have an idea of what you're looking at when you're looking at programs, when you're going into the gym and doing these things for the first time. The first terminology we're going to cover is reps and sets. Reps being repetition, sets of course being sets. Reps are short for repetition. The reps are going to be the amount of times that you do that certain movement in one given set. Sets being each group of those reps. So to give you a good example of this, when you look at a program or you find one online or your coach gives you one of these, you're going to see things that are going to say 3 by 8 to 12 or 10 to 15 or 4 by 10 to 20 or whatever those reps and sets may be. The number one that you'll see there is going to be the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, or 6 or whatever amount of sets you're going to be utilizing. The second on there is going to be the reps. Now, reps are more of guidelines. When I look at repetitions and I program them for clients, that 8 to 12 rep range is usually a given tool to say, I would like you to be in that space, but if you do a set and you have a lot more in the tank, go ahead and pass that space. It doesn't mean it's the end all be all. Now, if you get a lot past your reps in one given set, go ahead and increase the weight on the next set so you can stay within that range comfortably. Let's say, for example, you have a dumbbell bench press in your program. For that dumbbell bench press, it may say 3 sets of 10 to 15. The sets being how many times you're going to do that activity, so 3 times through with some kind of rest in the middle, and the reps are going to be that 10 to 15 rep range. So with rep ranges, again, use them as guidelines. It doesn't necessarily mean they're the end all be all, but that's where we're going to get you started. Next on the list, we're going to cover RPE and RIR. So those statements are used pretty frequently with coaches in the industry to give you an idea of how hard you want to work when you're doing those given reps and sets. RPE is a rate of perceived exertion. So rate of perceived exertion is going to be on a scale of 1 to 10, how difficult you felt like that given set was. If it felt like you couldn't do any more and you worked as hard as possible, that'd probably be closer to a 10. And if you feel like you could have done a lot of reps in addition, you're probably closer to a 1, and then everything in between. If you finish a set and you feel like you have more than 5 in the tank, you're probably between 1 to 5 RPE. And if you feel like you have less than 5 in the tank, you're probably closer to a 5 to 10 RPE. This leads us into our next terminology, which is reps in reserve. Reps in reserve, or RIR, is going to be a tool we use to know how many reps you have left when you're approaching failure. So have you ever felt like when you're doing a movement, maybe you're doing a bench press and you're going through this motion here, and you drive all the way up and all the way back down, and on the next one it moves really slow, and maybe you can't go to full rep there, and you stop there and have a slow eccentric coming back down. That would be approaching closer to failure. That feeling is what we're looking for when you're talking about RIR. If you can get close to that feeling, generally you'll be at more of a 5 to 10 RIR. If you have 3 to 5 additional sets left on that RIR scale, you're probably looking at closer to anywhere between a 1 to 5 RIR. These are great tools to note because as you go through programming or as you train, you want to be pretty close to getting to that failure mark. Not at the beginning. At the beginning, you need to have good form and technique. But as you progress and get more experience in the gym, I would anticipate that these tools and these terminologies will be things that you're going to utilize to ensure that we're getting the right stimuli from your training. Moving on in our list of terminology for beginners, we're going to look into progressive overload. Progressive overload is the idea that as you ascend in weight, you are going to descend in total reps. Having this structure, what you're going to find is you're going to slowly increase weight over time. This is what we want. I want you to get stronger as you train. You want to be in a position where every week you're getting some kind of personal record and utilizing that structure to help you continue to press over time. If you're lifting the same weight week over week, you're probably not hitting that progressive overload structure. At some point, you won't see the same benefits of building lean mass as you would if you continue to add more weight to your movements. You should not be at the same weight forever. Every week, there should be some kind of progression, whether that be in reps or in total volume. So adding more weight, more reps, form and technique, time under tension, etc. Those are all little things that you're going to know that will help with your progressive overload. There's a lot of terminology that people use when they are utilizing a coach or seeing things online or on TikTok or Instagram or whatever it may be. It's going to feel very overwhelming. And we're going to keep going through some additional terminology that you may need in the future. And if you don't, no big deal. But it's good to have a good baseline going into your training experience. If you're using the terminology that we found so far and you're going to the gym multiple times a week, week over week, or continue to make that progression, you'll find yourself in a realm of building strength or building lean mass. This would be deemed as hypertrophy. Hypertrophy, simply put, is the process of muscle growth. Most people will benefit the most from a hypertrophy environment, so make sure you understand this term. With all of the tools and definitions that we've provided so far, I would anticipate hypertrophy being something that occurs over the next 3 to 12 months. Now that you know what you're doing when it comes to reps and sets, progressive overload, and you understand that there's some hypertrophy involved, so building lean tissue involved, let's look at another idea, your training block. So when you have a training block, generally speaking, what you'll find is coaches often will provide you a given mesocycle. Mesocycles are just blocks of time when you have a specific goal, whether that be just building strength or whether that be having some hypertrophy involved, so building lean tissue, or it be a deload, or whatever that structure is, that's going to be a given mesocycle. Those usually are above 4 weeks, and technically speaking, you can hold on to these environments for quite a long time, but most coaches will put it in like a 4 to 12 week period. Moving on to our next definition, we're going to cover a deload, range of motion, and time under tension. All of those are key structures in understanding why you're training and how you should be training. A deload is a planned reduction in total training volume to allow you to back off of the environment that you've been in. Exercising is a stressor. It is inherently going to stress the body, put you in a position where you can build lean mass. At times, you may not have more room for those stressors, so implementing a deload can help you navigate the course of time, keeping you in the gym fresh enough to potentially go into a hypertrophy phase again in the future. Another big idea that you're going to hear oftentimes is people talking about volume. So when you're in the gym and you hear somebody like, oh, I've had a lot of volume today, it's generally their reps times their sets times the weights. That's going to give you the total volume of that training block. So if you did 10 reps of 10 sets of 10 pounds, please, editor, calculate this. The next thing we're going to cover is range of motion. So that is going to be whether you can take a movement from the full lengthened position to the full contracted position. That range of motion is going to be pretty full. So let's use the chest again because I'm seated and it's easier for me to do and show you this process. If you are going to do a chest press, generally speaking, as you bring your arm back, you're going to find that you are now in a lengthened position of the chest. Generally speaking, the range of motion I'd like you to be able to work through is a full range of motion. So for that, if you bring the arm back into this lengthened position and then drive all the way across the chest here, that is going to be a full range of motion for the chest. In future videos, we'll cover exactly how to do that with each of your movements. The last thing we're going to cover today is going to be time under tension. Time under tension, or TUT, is how long you have resistance on the muscle. For growth, it is important to note that you need time under significant tension. The phrasing would be closer to TUST, time under significant tension. You can have as much time under tension as you'd like, but if you're using 5 pounds and that 5 pounds moves really easy and you're sustaining more time under tension, it doesn't necessarily mean you're going to see growth. The tension has to be significant enough by means of how difficult or how intense that movement is. If you've made it this far in the video, I have a special bonus for you. I'm going to give you an idea of what a general training block should look like and answer some common questions. One of the most common questions that you'll find is, how do I warm up? Generally with weight training, especially for hypertrophy, I recommend warming up with the movements you're going to use. You can also include like a 3-minute brisk walk at the beginning to get the blood flowing, but when you're doing your weight training, use the movements you're going to use in that fully lengthened and fully shortened position to give you the warm up you need to start pushing heavier load. Now that we've covered some of the basic terminology, it's important to have a plan going into the gym. If you don't have a structure that you can follow along with, that you can notate how much weight you're using each time and how many reps you're doing, you will most likely fail. The reason being is there's just not enough structure to keep you rolling. If you do a barbell bench press one week and then you do pull-ups the next and there's no cohesion to all of your programming, generally you'll fail. The reason you fail is because you don't have that progressive overload environment. You can't manage reps and sets, and not logging and keeping track of this information is going to set you up for failure. You want to keep tabs on all of this. I want to see you improve over the course of the next couple of months. What you'll find at the end of this video is going to be a 3-day split. That 3-day split is going to encompass some kind of leg movement, some kind of back, some kind of chest, some kind of arms, some kind of delts, and that will take you through each of those given days. I'm gonna have it all listed for you. You can add this to your notes app, you can take a screenshot of it, you can put it into an Excel sheet, whatever you'd like. But what I'd like you to do is start to notate week over week how many sets you're doing, how many reps you're doing, and the weights that you're using. Every week, I'd like to see that progression continue to increase. The last tip that's not a definition I'm gonna give you today is if you don't track it, you will most likely fail. Make sure you're tracking everything. You gotta keep tabs on these things. The body works on an input and output system, and if you're not inputting the right things, you won't see the right outputs. You can have this in a notebook, you can have this on the notes in your phone. Again, you can have this in an Excel sheet. You can do it however you'd like to that you can consistently look back to and enter information in week over week. If you have any other questions on your training, we're gonna cover nutrition, sleep, stress management, the works. Anything that can revolve around this training environment to help you grow and better yourself in the gym. The confidence that you get from all of these videos should allow you to step foot in the doors and have the confidence to stay and progress. That's it for today's video. If you have any questions, feel free to leave them in the comments. If not, go ahead and like, subscribe, and share this video with somebody that needs the support to get in the gym and continue to go. Okay, bye.